and privilege to introduce John Foltz this morning as our featured speaker. We love John, and his voice is truly powerful. We have had the gracious gift of John on our stage for many, many years. And so we get to see him in a new role this morning. And I feel very, very blessed because it's been an ongoing joke that Reverend Catherine has not had bio, right, from John? Guess what? John's my guy. He gave me a bio, so I'm very, very happy. So John is a beloved husband and father, and he has been playing music since he was 2 years old. Maybe even before that. So I think the call for music and ministry has been within him. It's innate. He began playing professionally in 1994, and he discovered Science of Mind in 2001 at Seaside Centers for Spiritual Living. And he took the leap to full-time in 2008, become a full-time musician. And that same year he moved to Temecula and started coming right here. We were blessed to have him start visiting us here at CSL TV, and then became the music director, which he's been here for over 10 years, which is truly a gift. And I have to just say quickly, because I think I've said it before, but when he is around other ministerial students and he plays music, they all hand him their business cards. So he is a powerful voice, and we are so, so lucky to have him here. He has been taking classes since 2012, and he's never stopped. He is a lifetime learner, and he became a licensed practitioner in 2017. He started with the Holmes Institute School for Spiritual Leadership in 2018. And of course, he is supported by his beautiful, he says adorable, beautiful wife, Tina, his amazing kids, Jackson and Abby, and his beloved family who are here supporting him. So it is my great, great honor to welcome the beloved John Foltz here to the stage.
Good morning. I love the irony in that the one Sunday you guys get real vibe. It's not here. It brings laughter and joy to my heart. Now, of course, Steve is sitting right up front, so I know there's going to be information relayed. So how about all the rain we've been having? It's been pretty crazy, huh? Anybody seen any rainbows? Yeah. So little Timmy, his grandma saw a rainbow too. They were walking home from church one Sunday, we'll say afternoon, given when we usually get out of church, Sunday afternoon. They were walking home, and it had been raining where they lived, and now it was clear, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful out. And as they're walking up ahead in the distance, Timmy's grandma sees a rainbow, and she points it out, and she gets down at Timmy's level, and she puts her arm around him, and she says, "Wow, isn't that beautiful? You know what? I bet God painted that just for us." And Timmy had just been in Sunday school this morning. They were just talking about this, so he got super excited. And he said, yeah, Grandma, you know what? God did paint it just for us. And not only that, he did the whole thing left-handed. Grandma was confused. She said, "Well, what makes you say that? What makes you say he would do it left-handed?" And Timmy says, well, teacher said this morning that Jesus sat on the right hand of God, so he had to do it left-handed. Cute little joke. So my talk this morning is about love. As many people know, the rainbow is an ancient Hebrew symbol for God's love for all of mankind. And the thing that I'm taking in that this morning is that love is its own reward, as my title says. And when we say yes to love, it becomes its own fulfillment. So what about love? What about love is it that's so amazing? So what Dr. Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science, says, Love is the universal urge to express itself. It is the self-givingness of spirit. And so what that says to me is that God is love. God just is the presence and the essence and the spirit of love throughout all things. And in the self-givingness, what that says to me is that God is always saying yes. God is always saying yes to us. Love is always saying yes. And when I rolled it around in my head, it made me think of one of my favorite poems of all time by a guy named Hafiz, who was a 14th century Sufi mystic. And it goes like this. Even after all this time, does the sun ever say to the earth, you own me? Look what happens with a love like that. It lights the entire sky. And so when I think of that poem, it perfectly expresses that love and that self-givingness of God. It is unconditional. It is always happening. It is always saying yes to us, to everything. And so when we say yes to that kind of love, when we say yes to God, we are opening ourselves up to the infinite realm of possibility in which that love can express in our lives. Now, we talk a lot about the infinite, and as human beings, it's hard to conceive of what that means sometimes. We talk a lot about it, but we don't always understand it. And so, as Charlene alluded to, I've been in music my entire life. And so when I think of things, I generally think of them in terms of music. So what I came upon was this. In all of music, there are only 12 different notes. 12 different notes in the world of music. And that seems like it might be a rather limited set of tools to work with. But when we place those tools in the field of infinite possibility, in that field of infinite potentiality, here's what I invite you to recognize. Every single song ever written has used those exact same 12 notes. In whatever variation it used, but it has used those exact same 12 notes. And so it's placing those tools in the infinite field of possibility that allows that to come forth. And so, bringing that back to love, our human act of love and our faith is a tool that we use, knowingly or unknowingly, that we place into that infinite realm of possibility. And when we say yes to that, we are putting our faith forward and allowing that to manifest in our lives in magnificent ways. And so I think about this in terms of my own life. Has anybody here heard of the musical Moving Out? Yeah? If you have, awesome. If you haven't, it is a musical that utilizes the music of Billy Joel. And basically the lead role is Billy Joel. It's Billy Joel. He sits at a piano and he sings a song and people dance to it. And I thought, what an amazing concept. And back in 2003, there was an opportunity that opened up for an audition to be the understudy to that part in Los Angeles. And I heard about that through a friend, and I thought, wow, I was born to do that. I felt like I was born to do that. I've been doing it my whole life already. I grew up and cut my teeth on that stuff. I was ready. I was ready to do it. And so I went up and I did the audition. And I got called back. The next day I got called back. Hey, why don't you come back? And then I felt like I did a really good job. I felt really good about myself. Went out and celebrated. And then a week went by and I didn't hear anything. And so I ended up calling a casting agency, at which time they let me know that I didn't get it. And it was a bit of a blow for me. And it was a harder blow maybe than I even recognized at the time, But I could have let that have me say no to the rest of music. I could have let that shut me off from that life of music. And I think about what could have happened had I been accepted into that role. I could have been off in New York City on Broadway, performing that, a couple times a week as the understudy. And then the person who was in that role left, I could have stepped into the lead. And how exciting that would be. But even in the face of that no, because I said yes still to a life of music, I plowed on and I continued on with what I was doing. I think about what's happened with my life since then. If I was off in New York, I wouldn't be here right now. I think about it in terms of, that happened in 2003. I came here 5 years later. And when I came here, I said yes to doing music for this community. I joined this community. I love this community. I love each and every single one of you. I love seeing your faces every week. It brings me joy. It really does. And 10 years later, to now have said yes to the call of ministry, that's another talk for another day, about saying yes through the fear and the doubt. But what a gift, what an opportunity that I now get to step out from behind this 500-pound beast that serves as almost a security blanket for me. I get to step out here and connect with you all in a different way. And have a conversation with you that I don't necessarily have the opportunity over there. And there is a terror in that. It's terrifying to step away from that security blanket, but I'm saying yes through it, and I am loving it so far, I'll tell you. So, I think that life is a beautiful thing. The fact that we are all here living in this extraordinary existence, it is a beautiful thing. Whatever the experience is, it's magnificent. And the business of living sucks sometimes. I think it would be hard to argue against that. Sometimes stuff happens. You lose a job, a relationship ends, you watch the news, for crying out loud. It comes at us. And when it comes at us like that, it feels hard to say yes. We feel vulnerable. We feel scared. We feel unsafe. And all we want to do is be safe. And when we're not safe, it feels hard to say yes. And so, whether intentionally or unintentionally, sometimes we start saying no. And when we say no, we cut ourselves off from that infinite field of possibility. We cut ourselves off from the ways in which that can express. Actually, I want to clarify that. We don't cut ourselves off. We cannot possibly cut ourselves off from the infinite. It's always occurring. It's always happening. It's always saying yes to us. So when we say no, what we're really doing is opening ourselves to the infinite number of ways in which Spirit can manifest that no in our lives. And it can look like the cliche country song. You know, I lost my girl, I lost my job, I lost my house, my truck broke down, my dog ran away. And standing outside of it, we can look at that cliche country song and we can laugh a little bit. It's comical to see that train of consciousness play itself out in that way. But standing in the middle of it, it feels icky, it feels yucky, we don't like it, and we're in pain. And the more we experience it, the more we want to say no. And so I think it would be probably easy to argue that we would prefer to experience that in the reverse. Wouldn't you agree? We want to get the partner, we want to get the job, we want to buy the house, we want to fix our truck or buy a new car. We want that love to rush in our lives. And so when we say no, we cut off from that experience. What do we have to say in order to create the opposite experience? That was a question. What do we have to say? Yes, we have to say yes, right? Even when it's scary, through the fear, through the doubt, because when we say yes, we're placing our faith in God. When we say no, we're colluding with those circumstances, saying that that is more real than the only real thing there is. We're saying that the loss of a job or a partner or whatever it is, we're saying that that is more real than the ultimate reality. But when we say yes, we're acknowledging the power of that ultimate reality to pour forth in our lives in a positive way, in an expression of love. And so I ran across a story that I thought was a beautiful example of saying yes through the fear. There was a family, mother and father, and a young daughter, and then a younger son. And the girl had this rare blood disease her entire life. And she had been cured from it. She went into remission for a while, but then it came back. And when it came back, it was dire. It was a very challenging, life-threatening thing. And it was determined that if she did not get a blood transfusion with good, healthy blood, she was going to die. And on top of this, she had an extremely rare blood type that was just nearly impossible to find. None of the blood banks had any of this. And it just so happened that her younger brother had the exact same blood type. So the doctor and the parents talked, and the doctor asked the parents, do you think we could use some of his blood? It really will save her life. And the parents, being the good parents that they are, said, well, we should probably ask him how he feels about that. And so the doctor and the parents sat down in the office there, and the doctor talked to the little boy and said, you know your sister's really sick, right? She's got sick blood right now. And unless she gets some fresh blood, unless she gets some new, not sick blood, she's going to die. And even worse than that, she has a really rare blood type it's impossible to find. It can't be found anywhere. But you know what? You've got the magic blood. You've got magic blood inside of you that could save her life. Would you be willing to share your blood with your sister so that she can live? And the little boy thought about it, clearly processing the information, and his lips started to tremble and quake. And he said, for my sister, sure, if it'll save my sister, I'll do it. I'll share my blood. Everybody was very thankful and relieved, and it was a very brief expression of that. And they got him into the next room, and they hooked him up. And as he's sitting there with his arm out, connected to the IV, as they're drawing the blood from his body, and as he's watching it, he turns to the doctor and says, okay, doctor, so when do I die? And the doctor was confused. So he said, well, what do you mean? The little boy said, well, I'm sharing my blood with my sister. I'm not going to have any left, so when do I die? And up until that point, nobody in this entire situation had realized that this little boy had said yes, thinking that he was going to die. What an amazing yes, through the fear, through the pain, through the doubt, saying yes to his sister, saying yes to love, saying yes to life. And so he was open to have this experience, which was completely outside of his realm of consciousness. He was going to live. He had no idea at all that that was even possible. And so imagine his elation when the doctor told him that not only was his sister going to live, but he was going to live too. And they were going to grow up together. They were going to play, and they were going to be friends, and they were going to share that love their whole lives together. What a huge gift. So how do we say yes through the fear? When it gets hard, when we're in that pain, it feels so hard. How do we say yes? What do we do? I'm sure everyone in this room by this point has heard of a gratitude journal. Yeah, can I get a nod? Can I get an amen? You all have heard of gratitude journals, right? It's a powerful practice. And there's this one that's been circulating the internet for a while now. You've probably seen it, that I love as an illustration of how we can change that no to a yes. And it's just in a simple shift of our perception. And there's this picture of a mom's gratitude journal that she has at night. And on the left-hand side, she lists these things that might seem hard to find gratitude in. But then what she does over on the right-hand side is she just twists it just a little bit, just a tiny little shift, and it changes the whole picture. And so it looks like something like this. On the left-hand side, early wake-ups to get the kids to school. But over on the right hand, she says, children to love. On the left hand, endless loads of laundry. On the right hand side, clothes to wear. And it's a simple, you see, it's a simple shift. On the left hand side, toilets to clean. Who loves cleaning toilets? Anyone? Who likes indoor plumbing? Right? I am no fan of cleaning toilets, but I will take that over stepping outside in the freezing 30-degree Temecula weather to step into an outhouse. That's most certainly not clean. And then this list goes on for 10 or 15 things. And my favorite, my absolute favorite one, is the last one. And it says this on the left-hand side: sore and exhausted in bed. Alive, to feel all of it.
Yeah.
And all of it's the key. That's what I was talking about earlier when I said this life is a magnificent thing. Whatever it is that we're experiencing, good or what we perceive as bad, it is a life experience. It's a whole experience. And the gift is to live it and feel that aliveness. Even if it's sore and tired in bed, we feel that aliveness, and it is our life. It is the gift of our life. And when we have gratitude for those things, it places us in receptivity for more of that to shower upon us. It helps us merge with that infinite stream of good that is always taking place, instead of swimming against it by saying no. We say yes, and we receive yes in return. So I have I'd like to say challenge. I'd like to say an invitation. I have an invitation for you. I know it's not going to be a gratitude journal, because you guys are probably already doing those. And if you're not, you should start. But what I'm going to offer is a twist on that. So as you know, a gratitude journal is something you typically do at the end of the day. Last 5-10 minutes of the day, you reflect on your experience. And you give thanks in whatever way you do that for the things that you've experienced in that day. And it's a wonderful practice. It really is a huge shift in consciousness to be able to do that. What I'm going to offer is to tack that onto the front end of your day. Right? I look at gratitude as a blessing. It's blessing those things in our lives that are just there, part of our life experience. And so, if we take the first 5 to 10 minutes of our day and bless ahead of time what's going to happen, we bless the meetings we're going to have, we bless the people we're going to be with, We bless even a potentially difficult conversation we're going to have. We bless all those things, our errands, our chores, all those things. We bless them at the front end of the day. And we are seeding that to play out in our experience. We are seeding the blessing to play out in our experience. And then in addition to that, if you're not already doing it, I would encourage you to then at the end of the day also reflect. Reflect on how that day's been for you. Reflect on the experiences that you've had. And I might encourage you even to do this side by side in the same journal. Look at your blessings and then look at your gratitudes. And see the cause and the effect side by side. And what you're doing in this practice is you're bookending your day in blessings. You are bookending your day with a big yes, with a big faith. You're not colluding in the conditions that might bring you pain or doubt or struggle or whatever that looks like. You are saying yes to the goodness of God. And then at the end of your week, I'm going to suggest you do this for a week, at least. And you're probably going to want to keep doing it after that once you see the results. Because after this week, I'd love you to reflect on how your spirit feels by the end of this week, after looking at your cause and your effect, and feeling how you feel in your bones, in your body. How do you feel by the end of the week? Are you lighter, brighter, more connected, more aware of the love that's out there? I have a sneaking suspicion that you are going to feel more connected to that love, more connected to spirit, more connected to that beauty of life that you have. And it's an example of how when we say yes to a love of that magnitude, of that power, it becomes its own fulfillment. The yes, the faith act that we place in front of us becomes its own fulfillment. And in that way, love is its own reward. That's how it plays out. And so, I'm going to close with a reprise of that Hafiz poem, because it's my favorite and it's a really good excuse to say it again. And this time, when I say it, I'm going to invite you to recognize that that is not just the infinite we're talking about. It's not simply the infinite of which we can't conceive. That is us. That is the infinite living through us. And it is the love that we have. It's the love that we're capable of. It's the love that is inside of us already. Even after all this time, does the sun ever say to the earth, "You owe me"? Look what happens with a love like that. It lights the entire sky. That is God's love for us, around us, in us, through us, as us. It is who we've come here to be. It is who we already are. And when we say yes to that kind of love, it is its own reward. And so it is.